5 Sinister rules my father revealed for surviving the terrifying secrets of rural North Dakota. Sarah stared down at the dusty piece of paper, her father's shaky handwriting taunting her with impossible truths. Trust none. In the heart of North Dakota, the sun fell heavy over their family farm, but shadows crept closer, lurking just out of sight. The list had sent a chill down her spine, a sinister script whispering secrets of things that dwell too close to home. This wasn't a survival guide, it was a warning. Never go out at night. His words pulsed in her head, throbbing like a distant drum. What had her father known that she didn't? Sarah had grown up thinking this patch of land was a sanctuary, but terror now gnawed at her gut. Sure, the golden fields swayed gently under the fading light, but as dusk folded over the horizon, anxiety seeped into her thoughts. Neighbors who had always waved with warm smiles now seemed to wear edges of distrust, exchanging furtive glances over pie at the diner. Whispers filled the air, tales of a dark figure haunting the territories at night. Folklore, she scoffed, trying to shake the rising pall of dread, yet, an unsettling itch burrowed deeper. As she puttered around the home, everything felt wrong. The familiar creaks of the old floorboards now echoed like foreboding whispers in an empty room. Every breeze through the cracked window felt like a secret slipping away. Faces she thought she knew wore masks of secrecy. Suddenly, each smile felt like a warning. Then came the night Sarah's younger brother, Timmy, volunteered for a simple errand. It'll be fine, she reassured herself as he stepped out into the gathering storm. The countdown began. Each ticking second felt heavier, taut with a growing worry that clenched her heart. A flash of lightning illuminated the clouds outside, lighting up the unease coiling within her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Something shifted in the air after the brief distraction, a subtle tremor in the fabric of their little world. Sarah's eyes darted toward the window again. The field stretched out like a black ocean under the night sky, waves of crop shifting ominously. An electric tension tightened around her chest, prickling her skin. Her phone lay silent, no word from Timmy, no reassurance, nothing. Just then, a crack echoed outside, more of a sinister laugh than a whisper. Adrenaline rocketed through her veins. Emboldened and terrified, she threw open the door, flashlight in hand, cutting through the thickening darkness. Each step felt like stepping deeper into a noose. The rules spun in her head like curses. Always watch your back. As she moved to the edge of the fields, she caught a glimmer of movement, quick and eerie, a shadow melding with the tall stalks. Panic bloomed in her chest, threatening to suffocate her. Was it Timmy? Or something else, something worse? The wind howled, pulling back the veil of safety surrounding her childhood home. Then it happened, a face emerged from the gloom, a familiar face, twisted by years and heavy with malicious intent. You've come home, Sarah. It's time you learned the truth about our community. The words fell like stones, heavy with implications that collapsed every ounce of normality she thought she knew. In that moment, suspended in terror, she realized she stood at a precipice, engulfed in the reality that ignorance is often the most dangerous kind of bliss. What truths lay buried, waiting for her to uncover? The figure stepped closer, shadows clinging to him like tattered rags. Sarah felt a cold wave of recognition wash over her. It was Mr. Garvey, the neighbor who once smiled broadly at Timmy, whose kindness had wrapped around her childhood like warm summer afternoons. Now, that same face twisted into something grotesque sent shivers down her spine. I thought you left this town behind, he said, his smile unsettlingly wide. The light from her flashlight flickered, casting wild shadows on the cornfield, warping Mr. Garvey's features even more. But here you are. Ready to learn the darkness we guard. Her breath quickened. What do you want? The question felt weak, barely piercing the oppressive air thick with dread. Let us say. I want to share a few secrets, he said, a laugh threading through his words that was too breathy, too delighted. The high-pitched sound fluttered into the night like a startled bird. She took a step back, wanting to flee from the revelation he promised. But where could she run? The shadows of the cornfield felt alive, crawling, whispering her name in a mocking chorus. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the night. Sarah's heart plummeted. Timmy, panic propelled her forward. Timmy! She shouted, her voice cracking open like the sky in a storm. But the wind carried her voice away and swallowed it whole, leaving only silence behind a thick, suffocating quiet that echoed her fear. Mr. Garvey stepped closer, eyes glinting with glee. You should have followed the rules, Sarah. You should have stayed in at night. The words dripped with a sinister satisfaction, feeding her growing dread. But now you'll see what happens to those who don't. A flash of movement caught her eye. Behind Garvey, something shifted in the darkness. It loomed, swirling deeper into the blackness of the field where the light of her flashlight dared not pierce. Fear gripped her, tightening like a vice around her chest. Leave him alone. She cried, but the words felt useless, futile against the dark forces that swirled around them. Around her, the very air thickened and grew thicker still, suffocating. She could feel a presence pressing in, shadows stretching toward her, seeking to pull her down into their depths, the very ground beneath her feet seeming to tremble and pulse. Timmy's wail repeated, wild and desperate, clawing at her senses. I'm coming. She screamed, instinct taking over, adrenaline racing through her. She pivoted away from Garvey, heart pounding as she bolted down the narrow path, the flashlight bouncing wildly ahead, illuminating nothing but dark terror. But as she sprinted, every jagged breath choked with fear, she felt eyes on her from every direction. Timmy! She yelled again, her voice desperate, spiraling into the thickening night. The shadows seemed to respond, shaping and twisting around her, trying to lead her astray. A shudder racked her body, a premonition twisting in her gut. Just as she reached the furthest edge of the field, a figure darted past her. Timmy! Hope surged, momentarily drowning out fear. Timmy! She called again, her heart bright with urgency. But then the shadows moved faster, lashing out like living tendrils, thickening around her. Sarah, help! Timmy screamed. The sound split her mind like glass. She grasped the flashlight tightly, the beam flickering, wavering in her grip. A glimmer of movement flashed in her periphery, a dark form that wasn't Timmy at all but something that set her blood on fire with fear. It drew closer, hungry and threatening. With a final, blood-curdling scream from her brother, the world around her dissolved into chaos, darkness rushing in to consume her. What had her father truly known about this place? What horrors lurked just beyond sight? In that moment of despair, a faint whisper brushed against her ear. You'll never escape. The darkness swallowed her whole, and Sarah felt herself falling. The ground beneath her vanished, and her breath slipped from her like steam on a chilly morning. She was surrounded by shadows now, all whispering her name, wrapping around her like a stifling blanket. There was no escape from the suffocating blackness. Timmy! She screamed again, desperation clawing at her throat. It was as if the night itself had answered, muffling her cries with a dark promise of despair. She fought against the creeping tendrils, pushing her way back to consciousness, but it felt like swimming through molasses, and then silence. A light? Yes, a flicker, just beyond the horizon of dread. It beckoned her, shimmering like hope in an endless void. She stumbled toward it, heart pounding, her mind racing. Was this a trap? Timmy! The name echoed in her mind like a prayer, each syllable tinged with terror. Suddenly, the light faded, replaced by a haunting laughter, the kind that curled into your bones and settled there like a vicious chill. Mr. Garvey's face, twisted in glee, floated into view. You really thought you could find him? You're lost, Sarah. You always have been. No. She gasped, pulling herself upright, the weight of panic heavy on her chest. He is here. I can hear him. But the shadows thickened, suffocating her spirit. They pulsed like a heartbeat, alive and waiting. Not all who wander are lost. Some are meant to be consumed, Garvey sneered, his voice slicing through the stagnant darkness. He stepped back into the shadows, and she felt her resolve dwindle. What did he want from her? What did any of this mean? In the distance, Timmy's cries grew weaker. Was it even her brother's voice? The sound warped, turning into something grotesque, a chorus of silent screams echoing in her mind. A sudden thought struck her like lightning, the rules her father had whispered late at night, warnings that seemed distant then. Never stay out after dark, watch the shadows, listen carefully. They replayed in her mind like a horrific lullaby. What if they weren't just warnings? What if they were commands, lifelines to keep her tethered to safety? Find the rules, Sarah, she whispered to herself, fists clenched, seeking clarity amid the dark confusion. She would fight. She would find them. Then she heard it again, a fluttering in the corn behind her. Timmy. A flicker of movement. Was it her imagination? She ran toward the sound, fueled by a new surge of determination despite the siren call of despair wrapping around her. The shadows shifted with her, their tendrils clawing at her ankles, pulling her back with each frantic step. As she pushed through the field, she remembered the third rule: never trust the dark. The darkness around her twisted, forming shapes that warped her memories into nightmares. Her childhood home, twisted and derelict, faceless children laughing, the enigmatic, crooked grin of Mr. Garvey. Get away! She screamed. The clarity of her father's voice rang in her ears, the urgency breaking through the grip of terror. Then the air shifted. She caught a glimpse of something white, a shirt. Timmy's shirt. With renewed hope, she barreled forward, the world blurring around her. Sarah! Help! Timmy's voice cut through the blackness again, raw and desperate. Hold on, I'm coming. She lunged through the overarching shadows, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. But the figures seemed to accelerate, the darkness pulling her back, forcing her to slow down. Just before she reached the edge of the field, a sudden cold rushed past her, freezing her in place. A tall shadow loomed, its icy breath washing over her like a tidal wave filled with the scent of decay. Would you like to see the truth? It whispered, a seductive tone that froze her blood. She stilled, caught between terror and a morbid curiosity. What truth? What darkness lay beneath the surface of her childhood? But before she could move again, the figure lunged out, and the world erupted in chaos. Sarah! Timmy's voice faded again, lost in the cacophony of nightmares. She turned back, dread pooling in her stomach. What lay beyond this veil, this world woven by nightmares? Would there be a way back for her? She had to learn the rules, the hidden truths of this cursed land. But would knowing them save her, or would it lead her deeper into the darkness? The shadows danced, hungry and waiting. Sarah stood frozen, the cold grip of the spectral figure's breath lingering in the air. The shadows twisted around her, each whispering her name, and the weight of dread deepened as she recalled her father's urgent warnings. The rules. They were meant for protection, but now felt more like chains binding her to something vile. Sarah! That voice again, strained, echoing from the depths of the dark. Timmy! Each plea tightened the noose around her heart. She shook her head, forcing herself to breathe. Stay close to the light, she muttered, remembering the first rule. She turned, her heart racing, scanning for any glimmers of hope. The shadow shimmered, teasingly drawing her attention. Timmy! She screamed, a mix of determination and desperation. But the response was only silence, thick and suffocating, like fog in a forgotten graveyard. Did she dare step forward? With each step back towards the cornfield, the grip of the shadows seemed to loosen, almost as if they were giving way. Yet the laughter returned, a chorus of sinister giggles echoing through the darkness, heightening her fears. "Remember the second rule, Sarah," the voice taunted, soft yet menacing. "Trust nothing that lies behind you." She spun around, racing back to where she thought she heard Timmy. The shadows shrank back, but a creeping mist began to coil around her feet, thickening like quicksand. Sarah could feel her pulse quickening, each heartbeat matching the rhythm of the darkness closing in. As she ran, visions flashed before her eyes like nightmare paintings: Timmy playing with friends under the bright sun, her father smiling proudly, then fading into the stinging memory of Mr. Garvey's twisted grin. "Not all who wander are lost," echoed in her mind, drawing her deeper into despair. The ground shifted beneath her, from solid earth to soft, tangled roots, and she stumbled, almost falling. "You can't trust the darkness," she hissed through clenched teeth, forcing herself to stand tall. But what would it mean to trust the light? Did she even know where it was anymore? The light, it flickered again, perhaps ahead in the field. She pressed on, breath hitching as shadowy fingers followed her. Heat swelled from behind her. Was it the air, or the shadows igniting with hunger? Fear gripped her, urging her forward. "Timmy!" she gasped, guilt and sorrow threatening to overwhelm her. She was supposed to protect him. How could she abandon him now? She had to continue, finding the rules. Just then, a new sound cut through the anguished cry of her brother, slicing the silence. "Sarah! Don't leave me!" Her knees buckled. She staggered, bringing a hand to her mouth to stifle the cries building up inside. If only she could race through these shadows to find Timmy, to protect him. But would stepping into that void mean losing herself forever? Just then, the air turned frigid, and a shadow slithered beside her, whispering secrets of despair. "This is your truth, Sarah." Follow. The tall figure loomed closer, its features obscured but a hint of malice evident in its voice. "You seek your brother, but what will you sacrifice to find him? Would you part with your mind, your heart?" A single tear slipped down her cheek. Her heart screamed for Timmy, but her father's warnings echoed eerily in her mind. The fifth rule lingered, shadowy and menacing. "Do not listen to the shadows." Her breath quickened. "I will stop you," she declared, clenching her fists. With every ounce of anger, every ounce of love for her brother, she charged ahead, but just as she reached the edge of the darkness, the world splintered into shards, and she felt her body suspended in weightlessness. Sarah. Timmy's voice, now faint, mingled with the laughter of the darkness, leaving her suspended between two worlds, a choice that might seal her fate. Could she break through? Or would she succumb to the shadows that snarled hungrily, waiting with a promise dark enough to haunt her soul forever? The ground began to crack, and a deep chasm opened up beneath her. She teetered on the brink. Her next move could lead to salvation or an unfathomable abyss. What lay at the bottom? Would she find Timmy lost in that dark void, or would she plunge directly into the depths of a nightmare? The shadows laughed, their chorus rich with malice, as she took her breath and stepped forward. The moment her foot touched the jagged edge of the darkness, a rush of icy air enveloped Sarah. She gasped, a sharp intake of breath as her body plunged into the inky void. Time seemed to stretch, a fragile thread under the weight of fear and desperation. It felt as though she were falling, the shadows swirling around her like ravenous wolves, each clawing for a piece of her. Then, with a sudden jolt, she landed on hard ground. The chasm closed above her with a deafening boom, cutting her off from the world she knew. Staggering to her feet, Sarah blinked, desperately trying to process her new surroundings. The air was thick, cloying, pregnant with whispers and shadows that beckoned her to listen. Sarah. Timmy's voice, though distant, pulled at her heart. She could feel it, a thread connecting them even through the blackness. But was this the truth or an illusion crafted by the shadows? Her eyes darted around, searching for a glimmer of light, anything that might hint at a way out. The landscape twisted and warped, a nightmarish representation of her fears. She stood in a realm that felt like a perverse reflection of the cornfield, but here, the crops were withered, their edges jagged and teeth-like, reaching toward her as if they too sought to consume her. "Timmy!" The cry tore from her throat, raw and desperate. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum, each racing thought screamed in frustration. "Come play with us," a chorus of eerie childlike voices chimed. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, figures flitting past, ghostly children with hollowed eyes and twisted grins. A chill ran down her spine, prickling her skin. They were drawn to her, their laughter a sinister melody that sent waves of panic coursing through her. She couldn't trust them. "Stay away!" she yelled, taking a step back. The children giggled, their laughter turning sharp and mocking, ricocheting off the walls of this otherworldly prison. "You're no fun." Gritting her teeth, Sarah turned her back on them, pushing forward deeper into the darkness. Each step seemed to stir the shadows into a frenzied dance around her. The whispers grew louder, brushing against her ears, filling her mind with twisted thoughts. "You can't save him, let us take you instead," she staggered, shaking her head as images ripped through her mind, visions of Timmy laughing, his bright eyes full of mischief. She wouldn't let these shadows take that from her. They wanted to feed on her despair, but she wouldn't give in. Sprinting ahead, she searched for the light and escape that felt impossibly far away. The darkness closed in, its breath hot on her neck. A pulsing ache throbbed in her chest with every desperate plea for her brother, then, a flicker caught her eye, a shimmer, faint but undeniable. Hope surged through her veins. Waving a hand, Sarah moved toward it, her heart racing with renewed courage. "Timmy! I'm coming!" As she ran, the ground beneath her morphed again, this time crumbling and shifting like loose sand. She stumbled, her hands darting out to catch herself as the shadows roared in anger. They surged toward her, a thick wall of dread and fury. "Timmy!" she cried one last time, her voice cutting through the chaos. She had to believe he was just beyond. She would find him, or the terror would consume her whole, but just as she reached the light, it exploded into millions of shards, and a hand grabbed her arm from behind. "You're not leaving without me," Sarah, fear knotted in her stomach, and she spun around, eyes wide. She was met with a face she never thought she would see again. Mr. Garvey stood there, a twisted grin painted across his face. "You thought you could escape this place? You were wrong." The darkness swirled around them, hungry for their fear. What awaited Sarah now in this confrontation with the familiar turned monstrous? Was there a way to save Timmy, or was she destined for an even deeper nightmare? The grip of the shadows tightened, and the air filled with a palpable sense of dread. Where would she find the strength to fight back this time? The ground seemed to ripple beneath Sarah's feet as Mr. Garvey's laughter echoed around her, a sound desecrated by the shadows. His eyes glowed unnaturally, darkened pools filled with malice. "You had such potential, Sarah. But you ran, didn't you? Let him go!" she shouted, her voice cracking under the strain. Fear surged within her, thick and suffocating, threatening to pull her under like quicksand. "Why would I do that? He is such a delightful little creature," Garvey replied, tilting his head as though contemplating dinner. "And right now, I'm starving." She jerked her arm free from his grip, forcing her shaking legs to step back. The darkness roared around her, resonating with her panic. "You're just a monster. Let him go. You still don't get it." His grin widened, revealing teeth that seemed sharper, more pronounced. "This is a place of games. There are rules here. And if you want to see Timmy again, you'll have to learn them." "What rules?" Desperation clawed at her throat. Garvey leaned in closer, the foul air crackling with his sinister breath. Shadows twisted in an almost sentient way around him. "The first rule, never trust the shadows," he whispered, a sly smile spreading across his lips. "They are always watching." Suddenly, the darkness darted closer, each whisper a cacophony urging her to listen, offering her temptations and lies. She shook her head to drown them out. What's next? She demanded, summoning courage from somewhere deep inside. The second rule, always follow the laughter. But beware, it may not be friendly. At that moment, the ghostly children reappeared, their hollow eyes filled with an insatiable hunger. The shadows took form around them, swirling like fog closing in on her. Their giggles echoed eerily, resonating through the desolate night, teasing, taunting. Come play, Sarah. Stay away. She screamed, but her voice was lost in the din of their laughter. The third rule, Garvey continued, not bothered by her growing terror, fear feeds them. If you harbor it, they will grow stronger. She clenched her fists, trying to push down the wave of dread threatening to choke her. She couldn't let it consume her. I won't give in. Such spirit, he purred mockingly, but your heart has already begun to falter. The fourth rule, they will prey on your memories, your despair will be their meal. Remember Timmy? The joy you once had is just a taste, a whisper of what they desire. Sarah fought to hold on to the vision of Timmy, laughing in the sun, free and blissful. I will not let you take him. Sweat trickled down her back as the suffocating weight of the shadows pressed closer, but Garvey merely chuckled, seemingly unfazed. And the final rule, you must choose. Save yourself, or save him. You can't have both. Her heart thudded violently in her chest. The stakes were rising, a game she never wanted to play. She stared into Garvey's wicked grin, revulsion coiling her stomach. I'll save Timmy. No matter what. Such determination, his voice dripped with irony. But help may come from the most unexpected places. The shadows closed around her, filling her vision, shifting shapes that writhed ominously. She felt a tremor beneath her feet, an ancient power awakening in the depths of this dark world. Was it help or something worse? And just as she thought she heard Timmy calling her name again, the ground beneath her buckled, a cavorting fissure opening wide to swallow her whole. Questions clawed at her mind. Could she trust the darkness? What if it gave her Timmy but took something she cherished? As she contemplated her next move, the oppressive air thickened, and she realized the truth. The worst was yet to come. Would she find the strength to defy the darkness or succumb to the twisted game set before her? The ground gaped wider, crackling with energy that felt alive, every fissure whispering secrets she couldn't comprehend. Sarah stumbled, her heart racing, plunging her arms to steady herself against the jagged edges of the dark crevice. The shadows flickered, swirling like smoke, and she heard them whisper promises, echoes of laughter twisted with despair. Timmy! She shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. The fissure yawned beneath her, and she teetered on the edge of the abyss. A low growl seethed from the shadows. They pulsed with an unholy energy, threatening to drag her down with them. Don't let the darkness take you. She chanted to herself, gripping the ground tightly, the cool earth a reassuring reminder of her mortality. Save him or save yourself, Garvey's voice hissed from somewhere deep in the dark. You think you can dance between both worlds? You're mistaken, Sarah. She raised her head defiantly, peering into the depths. I won't let you win. Her voice quivered, but she stood tall against the onslaught of darkness, feeling as though the very air wavered with his looming presence. As if responding to her defiance, whispers grew louder, we wait for you, Sarah. Your choice will feed us. The ghastly chant wrapped around her, the ghostly children's laughter weaving through the air, a sharp reminder of the stakes. Would she relinquish hope for his welfare, or would she plunge headfirst into despair, allowing it to consume her? Suddenly, a cold wind rushed past, pulling strands of her hair wildly. The shadows erupted further, distorting into faces, lost souls echoing their own nightmares. Each one a horrifying reminder of failure, fading joy, and darkness. Memories swept over her like a tidal wave, the sound of Timmy's South laughter at the park, his tiny hand in hers, the comfort of daylight that felt too far away now. Focus. She breathed, clutching her fists tightly, squeezing back the flood of memories that churned within. He needs me. Just then, a glimmer caught her eye amidst the darkness. A silver line waned into view, a narrow path weaving through the chaos. A bridge of light connected the splintered ground. "Take it!" The echo of Timmy's voice shouted with urgency. "Hurry!" Adrenaline surged through her as she moved, each step toward the phantom light feeling heavier and heavier. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of rage and hunger clawing at her ankles. They recoiled slightly, as if struggling against the brightness. "Do you really think you can save him? Look at you. A mere child." Garvey's voice shrieked, but she refused to waver. With a determined breath, she lunged toward the light. It enveloped her like a warm embrace, pulling her free from the demonic clutches of the abyss for just a moment. But she could feel the energies twist, churn around her, desperate to drag her back into despair. As she crossed the threshold, memories flickered like shadows in the periphery. All the possibilities, the laughter, the hope, the innocence stirred around her, every joyous moment a fragile life buoy in the sea of darkness. The choices weighed down on her, a dilemma where the only way to save Timmy meant risking everything. Suddenly, a deafening roar erupted, snapping her focus back. The ground trembled again, swallowing the light, leaving her stranded in a consuming darkness that extinguished hope itself. "Now, the true game begins." Garvey's echo filled the void, deeper, more ominous. Sarah clenched her teeth, panic clawing at her resolve. Could she truly save Timmy? Hope flickering like a candle in a storm, each second a reminder. One misstep would spell doom. Tick-tock, tick-tock, the shadows crept closer, gnashing in excitement. But in that moment, something inside her ignited. She would fight. No matter what. The footsteps behind her drew nearer. She turned, caught an ethereal glimpse of a figure wrapped in shadow. "Help is closer than you think." It breathed, its eyes glinting with an unfathomable darkness. What did it mean? Was the light she had chased worth the risk of this new threat? As the shadows closed in once more, teetering on the edge of fate she didn't fully understand, Sarah's heart raced. Could she trust this new apparition, or was it yet another trick from Garvey's twisted game? The darkness held its breath in anticipation. And now, time was slipping away. The figure loomed closer, and Sarah could barely make out its features through the thick blackness enveloping them. A chill raced down her spine as the shadows wrapped tighter around her throat, squeezing her breath away. She staggered backward, the wild desperation in her eyes betraying her frail grip on courage. "Don't run," the figure rasped, its voice a low echo resonating from within the void. "I won't harm you if you don't fight it." "Who are you?" Sarah gasped, trying to maintain her footing despite the overwhelming pull of darkness threatening to tear her apart. "I'm someone who understands," it said, stepping slightly into the flickering edge of whatever light remained. And in that brief moment, she saw it, a gaunt face, eyes radiant with an unnatural glow piercing through the shadows. "I've been where you are. I've faced Garvey's torment, and I've lived to tell the tale." A flicker of hope ignited in Sarah's chest. "You know how to save Timmy?" "Maybe," it admitted, a ghostly smirk pulling at the corners of its lips. "But first, you must learn the rules." "Rules?" Confusion tangled with urgency in her mind. "What rules?" "I just need to find him." "I need." "It's not that simple." The figure drew closer, and Sarah felt a rush of icy wind, tinged with the scent of decay. "There's a price for everything, including hope. Garvey plays on the desires of your heart, turning them into your greatest fears. You must outsmart him, or you will suffer the same fate as his other victims." "What do I need to do?" She pressed, her voice steadying as adrenaline churned in her veins. "Listen carefully. First, you must always follow the light," it instructed, raising a trembling finger towards the faint glimmer in the distance. "But never let it blind you completely. One glance back can lead you astray, down pathways of regret and sorrow." "Okay, I get it." She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to shake the dread forming inside her. "What else?" "Second," it continued, "never lose sight of your purpose. Desire can twist you, wrap you in a cocoon of delusion. Timmy isn't the only one you could save, but saving too many will cost you everything. Her heart hammered in her chest, the weight of its words pressing down. What could it mean? Third, the darkness will tempt you. It knows your weaknesses and can masquerade as familiarity, the figure warned, voice soft. Don't believe its lies even if they sound like the ones you love. Even if they are Timmy's voice. And the last two? She urged, desperate for answers. Fourth, you must learn to let go. Yes, you might find him, but holding on to what you love too tightly can lead to your demise. Please, panic clawed at her throat. What's the last rule? I need to fifth, know that when the time comes, you must be willing to sacrifice. Hope is a dangerous game, and Garvey delights in your every choice. The shadows shivered at the figure's words, and it paused, eyes narrowing, as if sensing something. Most importantly, when the shadows come for you, don't look back. An echo of laughter pierced the air, mocking her emerging resolve. The shadows split open behind her, revealing a chasm darker than she thought possible. The whispers surged, crawling up her legs like icy hands, drawing her into chaos. I can't stay, the figure said, beginning to dissolve back into the darkness. Choose wisely, Sarah. Remember the rules. No. Wait. But before she could call out again, the figure slipped from view, leaving Sarah alone with the encroaching shadows. She held her breath, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. The weight of every decision pressed down heavily, a crushing reality that twisted hope into insurmountable pressure. The whispers grew louder, wrapping around her mind. She took a step back, glancing behind her at the shimmering path of light. In that moment, an image of Timmy flooded her heart, his innocent smile lighting up the darkest corners of her mind. But the shadows were there too, licking at her heels, teasing her with desperate reminders of what lay ahead. With every second that slipped by, the urgency mounted. Would she break free from this sinister grip? Or would despair drag her into the darkness alongside Timmy? Time slipped through her fingers, the abyss yawning before her. What would she choose? Above it all, Garvey's low, menacing laugh welcomed her deeper into the void. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum in her ears as the echoes of Garvey's laugh rippled through the darkness. The air thickened, heavy with something rotten and spectral. She felt as if the shadows were breathing, alive and hungry. Without wasting another moment, she forced herself to look ahead, toward the faint light that seemed to beckon her away from the sinister void behind. A piercing whisper slithered through the abyss, calling her name, Sarah. It was a voice too familiar. But it wasn't Timmy, it was something else, something that crept coldly beneath her skin. She tightened her grip on the rules she'd just learned, each one echoing in her mind like a mantra. Follow the light. Don't lose sight of your purpose. She took another shaky step toward the glimmer, but the shadows twisted and lunged, flickering like a bad projection. With an effort, she pushed down her panic and resisted the urge to look back. Those voices, they were lies. Half-formed memories trying to lure her away from her mission. She couldn't afford to be weak. Timmy. She cried out, her voice breaking from the tension. I'm coming for you. Momentarily, the darkness stilled, as if intrigued by her defiance. An unsettling silence enveloped her, followed by a hint of laughter eerie and disembodied. The shadows shifted, revealing fleeting shapes of what might have been lost souls, their faces twisted in agony. Was that fear or desperation etched on their features? Their endless pleas clawed at her heart. Shivers ran through her as she felt the presence of something looming just beyond the fringes of light, a pulsing darkness that pressed in, eager to envelope her. She fought against it, hurrying her pace. The paths began to unfurl beneath her feet, twisting like serpents. She ran, realizing too late that the path twisted away from the light she sought. Each turn pulled her deeper into the grips of despair, as blurred visions passed through the dark, a child crying, desperate and alone. Timmy! She shouted again, clenching her fists until her nails bit into her palms. Where are you? As if in answer, a vision of her brother flickered into being, suspended in the air, a memory lost in torment. There he was, Timmy, cowering and wide-eyed, shadows wrapping around him like chains. He reached out, mouth moving silently, mimicking a wordless scream that echoed Sarah's own plight. Adrenaline surged as her focus sharpened. She remembered the figure's warning about desire twisting into fear. Was this all Garvey's sick game? Was he feeding on her yearning, turning it into insanity? No! She shouted, cutting through the connections of darkness attempting to bind her. You are not real. The image of Timmy smiled, but there was something sinister behind it, a reflection of the very shadows she fought. In that heartbeat, she understood the gravity of her choice. She had to let go. If she was to save him, she couldn't lose herself. With an agonizing resolve, she pushed shrill cries of hopelessness away. Instead, she focused harder on finding that light. It grew brighter, a pulsing beacon in the dark, a symbol of hope she refused to let slip away. Yet doubt echoed in her heart. She felt the pull of shadows growing stronger, more insistent. Were the rules slipping away in the tides of madness? Determined, she forged onward. Suddenly, a guttural roar intertwined with her thoughts. It spiraled around her, reverberating like a storm. The voices became chaotic, overlapping, drowning her senses. Then came the revelation: 1,000 voices converged in her mind, each one laughing, each one beckoning her to surrender. In that heartbeat, the ground beneath her shifted once more. She stumbled, her breath quickening as darkness swirled around her. She barely recognized the figures writhing, some smirking, and others reaching with claw-like hands, but beneath the tempest, she glimpsed a faint golden thread, tugging her forward, urging her to choose once more. Would she fight against the encroaching void? Or would the darkness consume her before she could save Timmy, before she could decide? A flicker of the figure returned, an echo in the blackness. Remember the rules. Would the light guide her? Or would she be lost in the abyss forever? Sarah's heart thundered as she stood at the precipice of despair, teetering between light and shadow. Each instinct screamed for her to push forward, to reach Timmy, but the oppressive darkness clawed at her resolve. The echoes of Garvey's laughter twisted around her, a persistent reminder of the game she had been unwittingly drawn into living. She inhaled sharply, recalling the glowing thread of hope that had shimmered through the chaos. With steely determination, she forced herself to remember the urgency in her heart. I want to let you take him. She shouted, her voice a battle cry rising above the din of despair. The shadows recoiled, hissing like wild, angry serpents. Sensing her defiance, Sarah squinted ahead. There, just beyond the curling darkness, was the faint glimmer of light. It pulsed gently as if alive, beckoning her like a lighthouse guiding a lost ship home. Timmy! She shouted again, praying her voice would reach him. I'm coming. With newfound resolve, she charged forward, the ground beneath her trembling with each step. The shadows lashed out, eager to reclaim her, thick and creeping around her legs like vines, pulling her back into their depths. But she pushed against them, her will igniting a fire in her chest. You won't stop me. As she ran, images swirled before her eyes, memories of Timmy's laughter under the summer sun, the way his little hand fit perfectly in hers, their playful shenanigans in the yard. Focus! She screamed internally, fighting back blind panic. She remembered the rules, the desperate whispers of a sacrifice she wasn't willing to accept. Every step could lead to salvation or utter doom. Then, as if sensing her persistence, the shadows surged forward. Tension crackled in the air, rising up to seize her heart and squeeze with icy claws. Let go! Garvey's voice came from behind, dripping with malice. You can't save him and yourself. Choose. No. Sarah pressed onward, refusing to accept his twisted logic. She felt the threads of fear roil around her, but she fought through it, spurred on by her love for Timmy. I will save us both. I won. Choose. The glimmer of light expanded, nearly blinding as she sprinted toward it. Closer, closer, her breath laboring against the encroaching shadows, weaving madness in her mind. She could feel Timmy's presence, shimmering and desperate, somewhere just beyond reach. She shouted his name, the sound powerful and raw, cutting through the suffocating darkness surrounding her. Sarah. Her brother's plaintive voice echoed back. It was filled with hope and fear, urging her on, the reminder of what she was fighting for. Hold on, Timmy. I'm almost there. She felt her heart racing as she leaped forward, arms outstretched, toward the radiant light. It pulsed, growing brighter and warmer as she barreled forward, embracing it with everything she had. As she broke into the light, a roar erupted behind her, an angry swell of darkness pulling and gnashing its teeth. She felt a tug, fear sliding down her spine as the shadows grasped at her ankles, but she refused to look back. She wouldn't give in to despair. In a blinding flash, she collided into something solid, warmth enveloping her like a blanket as she fell through the edge of the darkness. The sudden surge of energy wrapped around her, lifting her spirit from the clutches of insanity. Then she was free, sprawled on soft grass under a twilight sky, gasping for breath. The shadows shrieked in frustration, cloaked in despair as they twisted away, hissing threats that faded like smoke in the wind. She sat up, dazed, and looked around, the familiar contours of the cornfield stretching out before her. But shadows still flickered at its edges, alive with hunger. Timmy. She called, the urgency catching in her throat. She saw him then, small and terrified, crouched among the cornstalks, eyes wide on the verge of tears. He darted toward her, scrambling through the dark expanse. Relief flooded her, she rushed toward him, collapsing into his trembling arms. Sarah. Timmy gasped, burying his face in her shoulder. I thought I lost you. You. Didn't he? Not now, not ever. She held him close, feeling the warmth of his little body grounding her. We're going home. But as she pulled back to look at him, she noticed sadness embedded in his bright eyes, shadowed over by something inexplicable and heavy. Did we win? He whispered, confusion dancing between them. We took a step, she replied, gripping his shoulders firmly, but we have to stay close to the light. With tentative steps, they moved together, crossing the threshold of the field where it merged with safety, their family home now glowing softly under a moonlit sky. The shadows at the edges whispered still, but they stood united, a barrier against the encroaching dark. As they reached the porch, Sarah looked up at the stars that filled the night sky, each one shining like a beacon of hope. The horrors of the last hours still lingered, sharp and raw, but together they could face whatever darkness awaited. Let us never stray too far again, she murmured, pulling Timmy close and feeling his warm breath against her cheek. Yeah, he said, his voice steadying. I want to be brave like you, Sarah. Tears welled in her eyes as she smiled at Timmy, each twinkling star a promise specific to them. Their journey hadn't concluded, it was just beginning, but they would face it together. And with a heart full of courage, Sarah whispered one last rule she'd learned. Hope is stronger than fear. As they settled onto the porch, the shadows pulsed, but the family home stood unwavering against the night. They had survived the darkness, for now together, and as the night stretched on, Sarah and Timmy vowed to forge their path, living each day with the promise of light and the lessons learned from the darkness never far behind. Now, before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it's so important. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters, and only true fans understand how crucial it is to help our community grow.